In this video, I'm going to give you the ultimate guide to law firm SEO in 2025. I'm going to show you the exact process I use to rank law firm websites on Google using SEO and everything I do to make that happen. My name is Matej Matic. I'm the founder of Dominate Marketing, where we do PPC and SEO for law firms. And I'm going to show you the exact process that I use to make that happen right here now. So let's get right into it. The first thing that goes into doing a new law firm SEO campaign is keyword research. So the first thing you're going to have to do is determine what keywords you're actually trying to rank for and then optimize your website for those keywords accordingly to actually stand a chance at ranking. And so there are methods that you use to pull out which keywords you should target, which I'll explain to you here. Basically, you're going to need a keyword research tool to make this happen and to be able to do the research correctly. I personally recommend SEMrush because that's the one that I actually use and it's been very reliable and good for me over the last couple of years. There are a number of other ones out there, but I prefer SEMrush. I'm going to put my affiliate link in the description below if you want to get it. Otherwise, you can just go to their website and get it as well if you don't want to use my link. But you're going to need some kind of tool there, and I'm going to show you that in a second. What you want to look for is search volume, relevance, and keyword difficulty for the keywords that you're looking to target. And I also recommend focusing on long tail keywords early on for quick wins. Now I'm going to show you what that means in a second. This is SEMrush, the keyword research tool that I'd recommend you use. And basically what I'm going to do is go into the keyword magic tool and we'll do some keyword research here. So let's say, for example, we're running a personal injury firm in Los Angeles. So what you'd want to do, let's say we're doing car accidents. So we'll go car accident attorney, Los Angeles. And that's the keyword I assume is going to be the top level one. I'm just going to click keyword overview. And what's going to happen here is it's going to give us all the data we need for this keyword. So what it's going to show us here are the keyword variations. Now, the first thing to note is that usually the one with the highest volume would be the one I would consider the top level keyword or the main keyword we're going after for this page. These variations are typically just variations of the word, which you'll probably pick up by ranking for the top one. However, sometimes it will give you adjacent keywords to it too that you should pay attention to. Now, the two metrics you want to pay attention to with any keyword is the search volume here, which is the approximate number of people that search it every month. The keyword difficulty score, meaning how difficult it's going to be. And this will give you a rough idea as to how difficult it is. We'll go into that shortly as well, a bit more into detail. Another thing to pay attention to is the search intent behind the keyword. These are not always accurate in the tools, but it can give you an idea. In this case, it says commercial, meaning people are after a commercial transaction by searching this keyword, meaning looking to hire a service in this particular case. If it said informational, then they'd be seeking information, which typically doesn't convert into an actual paying service. Now, the other things you want to look at are the variations, like I already mentioned, and then this is the search results and the competitors that rank for this keyword. And what this does here is it gives you their domain authority score, which is approximately how authoritative their website is or how strong it is, meaning how competitive they're going to be, and their amount of backlinks and their search traffic as well. And so here you can get an idea of what kind of authority score you need to be able to compete with them, because if they're all between, let's say, 20 and high 30s, you're probably going to have to be in that range to land here as well. And so that basically backs up the keyword difficulty score, which is more or less where this comes from. So that's something that you need to pay attention to. When it comes to long tail keywords, they can be, so this would be considered, even though this is somewhat of a long keyword, this would more or less be considered a short tail or a main keyword, such as car accident attorney. That would be like the short tail main keyword for car accidents. When it comes to long tail, it's more like, it could be something along the lines of whiplash injury attorney Los Angeles. Now, this might not have a lot of volume. The fact that these are showing up as show 0 indicates that it's lower volume. But what you will find is that this tends to be much lower competition. Now, whether this is worth going after or not is a separate discussion. But typically these longer tail keywords, which are very specific, have less competition and less people going after them. So they're going to be easier to rank for. But they also tend to convert very highly, because if somebody is after this, then if somebody's actually searching this, then the odds that they're actually going to convert on it is actually higher than someone searching a more broad general term. So this is just an example to show you what I mean. You would obviously want to find the ones that are worth more for your firm, like bigger cases, if that's what you're going after. However, this gives you the idea. If you already have a website, you can pull your current keywords from SEMrush, and you can also pull your direct competitors' keywords from there as well. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go to Google and just pull a random car accident attorney from Los Angeles website, and I'll show you how this works. So let's say we'll go with these guys. We'll pull this out, just pull the URL. And what you would do is you'd go to domain overview and put this in here. And now this is going to tell you all the data about the domain. So you would do this about your own website. And what you can do is you can go here to top organic keywords, and this tells you what the site ranks for. So here's the entire list. And so what you can do here is you can export that list. You see, you can export it as a CSV, Excel, whatever. We just take that, we'll get the CSV file. Just go to the desktop. Okay, I've got the CSV file now. And now what you can also do is pull out, let's say, these two competitors, and we can pull out them as well. So what we'll do is we'll take these guys and we'll go back to SEMrush and go keyword gap. And so what this is going to do is we want to put the competitors down here. And we want to take our website, in this case would be this one. And we want to go compare, and SEMrush is going to tell us what we rank for versus what they rank for, and if there's any gaps. Now, obviously I pulled the number one out. So this one is probably going to rank for everything the others do. But if you go missing, you can now see here the list of keywords that let's say our website in this case doesn't actually rank for, and there could be potentially things to go after. So if, for example, these guys did California in general, they could potentially go after Santa Ana, San Francisco, injury, a couple other ones here. California, no state. That's a question one, but it could be an interesting blog to write about, for example. A lot about Santa Ana, Glendale, car accident lawyer. They could go after that one. And these get some decent search volume here. So this is some potential that they could go after if they're not already. You can see here a whole list. So you can pull this whole list as well. So you can just go export this as well to CSV. And so now you've got these two CSV files. Now you've got these two CSV files with this data in here that you can also use for keyword ideas. What you want to do from here is create your site structure, otherwise known as a silo structure. Basically, the idea with this is that you're going to be creating silos of content on your website, which are all going to support one particular topic. So let's say, for example, you've got car accident injury attorney. You would have the top level page, and then you would have a bunch of pages below that, so all the subsections to that with all the content that interlink and go back up, essentially pointing the traffic and all the site's relevance back to the car accident injury page, and that would be the silo. Then you could do another one, let's say if you're doing another PI area, you could do like victims of crime or workers' comp or whatever else you're doing. They would be their own silos as well. And so you want to use the keywords you pulled to establish the silos that you're going to create. So if you're doing the car accident attorney ones, you would want to use that as the top level one and then figure out what sub pages you need to make for that as well. You want to focus on the commercial intent keywords for now. So I spoke about that already where I told you about the keywords in SEMrush. Now I spoke about that already when I mentioned the search intent with keywords on SEMrush. At the beginning, you want to just focus on the commercial pages and get those up first because they're the ones where you're going to get the conversions from. They're probably going to be more competitive and take longer to rank for, but you want to get them up there first to establish your relevance for that topic first. If you start with informational pages first, you can get into the trap of looking like an info site on Google, which since September 2023 and the HCU update can make it very difficult for you to rank for and potentially, it's not blacklist, but trigger your domain to make it tricky to rank for. Let's put it that way. So you want to make sure you start with the commercial pages first. That's been my experience. Now, what you also want to do is include any practice areas, sub-practice areas, and location pages as well. So for example, if you're doing car accident attorney and you're covering California, you want to make sure that you have all the different cities for each of the things. So let's say you got the car accident attorney page. You'd want to make sure that you had like Los Angeles, Santa Ana, as we saw recently, any of these ones that get all the different searches. For example, Orange County, then you could do San Francisco and you could do San Diego and all these other places, right? You want to make sure you do that with these pages. You want to do that with the sub areas as well. So let's say, for example, you're doing pedestrian accident attorney, then you would want to have that for all the areas as well that you want to target. And so that's going to help you rank for these very specific searches for, you know, this type of lawyer in location. And that, for example, is probably what these guys didn't do that I showed you earlier, where they didn't rank for the Santa Ana related keywords. So that could be a potential opportunity there. And these ones are typically easier to rank for than the main state or main city or whatever the capital cities keywords are as well. Now, if you offer a service that might not be on this keyword list, or perhaps the keyword for that service doesn't necessarily get much volume, I would still recommend that you make a page even if it doesn't show like there's any search volume. Kind of like how I showed you that whiplash keyword earlier, where it said it had 0 volume. I would still make that page anyway if you want to get those types of inquiries, because you'd be surprised how many times it says 0 volume and you actually put it up and you end up getting hundreds of impressions per month, which you'll see in Google Search Console, which I'll talk about a little bit later as well. So it's definitely worth doing if you want to offer that service. Once you've got the keyword list ready, you've decided what keywords you're actually going to target with your website and what you want to rank for, you want to now start producing the content for these new pages. So what I like to do is I use Claude AI to write the foundation of the content, which I then edit. However, Claude is very good for this, so I would recommend you use it to at least get the content up and the foundation of it out the way. Then you want to use a tool called Surfer SEO to optimize it. There are a number of other optimization tools you can use as well. Personally, I'm using Surfer at the moment and have been for a while, and so I do recommend that one as well. I'll show you that in a minute, and I'll put my affiliate link below if you want to try it out as well. And like I said, you want to focus on the commercial intent of these keywords, so don't make these pages informational. So the mistake people usually make is that they will write a lot of informational content like, what is a car accident attorney? What does a car accident attorney do? What should you do after a car accident? Now, all of these are this type of content is not what should be going on commercial pages. Commercial pages, the purpose of them is to promote your services, give people the solution that they're looking for. So if someone's looking for a car accident attorney, they're looking for an attorney, not what should I do after a car accident? They've clearly already been injured and they want an attorney now. So you need to solve their problem essentially, tell them what you can offer them and why they should use your firm. And that's the kind of content that you want to put on these commercial pages. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a quick example of producing the content with Claude, running it through Surfer to optimize it so you can see what that would look like, and then showing you what this content will look like in the end. So on Claude, I have a specific project with a prompt in it that I have engineered over time and much testing and reiterations to produce service page content that we use as the foundation and then edit. So what I can do is I have it already. So now what I can basically do is go and just give it the topic and the word count and the keyword list from Surfer. So what we're going to have to do is go to Surfer and set this up first. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then we can run it through here. So let's pull that main keyword that we had earlier, which was car accident attorney Los Angeles. And we want to go into Surfer. And so this is what it looks like once you're in the account. You want to go to the content editor here. Here you can start a new piece of content. You can see new content. And so it's going to ask you to input the keyword you want to rank for, which I'm going to put in this one, and then select the location. So make sure you select the right location. And now I'm going to go create. And now what it's going to do is it's going to scrape the search result and it's going to compare all of the content that's ranking on page 1 and figure out what words and NLP terms and keywords and content and topics we need to include on that page so that we actually can stand a chance at ranking against these people as well. So you're going to see that in a minute. Once it's done its analysis, it's going to give us all this data that we can work with to produce this content. And now you can see that it's done. So we can click on it here. And now this is where we're going to see all of the information. And so what I recommend you do first of all is click customize. And here you're going to see the search results where you can compare against. And so what I recommend you do is you select only the ones that are actually law firms. If you find something like Forbes in here or Reddit, you usually see super lawyers as well. They're not your direct competitors because you're not Forbes or you're not a directory. You want to just select only the actual law firms because that's the kind of content you are. And so that's what you want to use as your comparison, because the other ones can throw it off with some obscure like word counts, as you can see here in the optimization scores and things like that. So that doesn't help. So make sure you select only the law firms that are like yours, hit let's go. And now you can see we've got the word count here and we have the keyword list. And so what we want to do is we want to make a note of this. So 3,200 is the top higher end. And we want to copy these keywords, go back to Claude, and I'm going to paste the keywords in here. And I'm also going to give it the word count, which I'm going to say is 3,500 words. And I'm going to say car accident injury attorneys, Los Angeles. Now you can give it more information, and the more information you can give it, the better it's going to be. So if you have some background info on your business, on your law firm, or on your website about this topic itself, you can paste that in here as well. And that will help produce even better content that's more specific to you. But in any case, for this example, I'm just going to run this. We'll let it do its thing, and then I'm going to put this content into Surfer and show you what that looks like. And you can see how it's produced this content here. Now I'm just going to copy this all and I'm going to paste it straight into Surfer here. And now you can see our score has already jumped up to 72. This is because I've already prompted it with the instructions to produce content that's supposed to be like this. Now I want to get it to fix it because it's clumping up these massive blocks of text. I'm just going to fix that quickly. And so now we've got the content. So let's say this was just a piece of content that we started working with on our page. I'll show you quickly how you can optimize this. So you can see here, it tells you the keywords that you should include, how many should be included, and if there's anything that we didn't include here. So what we can now do is go through this content and quickly start optimizing aspects of it. So our word count is in the good range, even though it's a little bit low, but we can always add more if we need to. What you want to do is you want to go through and make sure that you include the main keywords. So it's especially important in the headings, like the main heading up here. And I'm going to go into that on the on-site section in a minute as well, how that needs to be formatted. But you want to make sure you have the main headline as a H1 headline. The second one can be a H2 headline. Now, quite frankly, I use the main headline as the main keyword and then the sub headline as some kind of incentive here. So, have you been injured? An auto accident hour. Something like this. So this is obviously a very obvious statement to make. A lot of people use this kind of thing, but my point is that it's kind of giving it a little bit of life. So I like to use that second headline for that and also include a variation of the keyword, which is auto accident attorneys right up there as well. What you want to do is go through this content, see where you can insert some of these keywords that are not included. I find that including the ones that are not included already tends to bump the score up quite a bit. Now, the goal with this is we want to try and get the score at least to 75 if possible, and ideally above whatever the top score is, which in this case is 74, which is quite convenient. Basically meaning that your content will be more optimized than the competitor's content. So that gives you a good shot at ranking above them or at least among them by having the content that's more of what Google essentially wants to see. So now bear in mind that this score is just this tool's assumption of how optimized it is. Nobody except Google obviously knows exactly what it is, but based on what's there, this is where this tool gets this number from. It's taking a look at what's on Google now and then, calculating accordingly with its own factors, obviously, that it considers. And so that's something to keep in mind. So if you can get it to about 75 and above whatever the competitor is, which is how I like to do it, then you should be good to go. So we can throw some of these in. So let's see if we can insert some of these that are not included already. So maybe, for example, how our Los Angeles accident attorneys can help you. So you can go through and insert these keywords where it seems fit. So our auto accident lawyers spring into action. So I've included the best here, which included two more keywords and bumped the score up by one. Maybe I'll just put the word personal injury here. Okay, that got personal injury in. So now we're at 74. And so you would keep going through this process, seeing if you put some more in there and just try and get that score at least equivalent, ideally above the top competitor. That's how I like to do it. And so you can see how we bumped it up. Now, if we took a random one, just to give you an example, let's say we go down to like page 7 and I'm just going to pull this random website. And what I'll do is I'll just copy this content and put it in there just to show you a contrast. See what the score looks like. So basically, let's say you were starting off with that website. Yeah, you'd be starting off with a score of approximately 44. So you can see how if you started off with 44 and now just did what I did, we're now up to 74. Now we have a much higher chance of ranking. So that's basically what you want to do with optimizing your content and preparation for putting it on your website. Then once you've got this content prepared, what you can do now is start putting it on the website and start doing the on-site SEO optimization. So that includes things like the meta title and description, the URL of the page, and the headings. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Those three are the three essentially pillars of SEO, which are the three most important on-site things you need to be aware of and do correctly in order to rank. So I'll go into that in a second when I'll walk you through adding this content to the website. You also have the images and alt tags, where you want to name them appropriately and put the appropriate alt tag as well for the page. Internal links between the different pages that link to each other. Schema, which I'll go into as well a little bit. The sitemap of the website itself. The page speed, which means it needs to load properly, and I'll show you how to test that. You want to make sure that it's mobile friendly on each pages as well, and this pretty much goes without saying at this point, since over, I think, 60% of traffic now is on mobile devices. And the last thing is you need to make sure that the website can actually be indexed by Google. So you want to make sure that it can actually be crawled and indexed. There's a setting in WordPress for that if you're using WordPress, and I'll show you this in a minute. So let's go to an example site I have set up here already. I'll go to the dashboard and we can start adding this page. So what I'm going to do is I have some pages here that I previously made as examples. I'm just going to duplicate this so that the format's already there and we don't have to mess about, but I'll show you how I put all the meta title and all of the on-site stuff for the page. So once we're in this page is about car accident attorneys in Los Angeles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it that. So we know obviously what page. This is not going to show up but on the front end, but I'm going to put it here as well. And now you want to do the URL. So the URL in this case, I usually go with whatever the exact match of the main keyword is. Surfer will usually tell you what that is. So in this case, it is car accident attorney Los Angeles. That's usually what you want to use for the URL. So if you're in doubt, just use that. Now, I like to do it right off the root here, meaning no multiple folders. Some people like to do folders, so they would have like car accident attorney / Los Angeles as the page. That's different ways you can do it as long as you're not repeating the keyword too many times. So what you wouldn't want to have is car accident attorneys / car accident attorneys Los Angeles. That's starting to now become a bit optimized and over optimized and a bit long. So be careful about doing that. Now, one thing you will want to do is have an SEO plugin on the website so that it takes care of a lot of the on-site stuff and also to make sure that you can actually edit the meta title, description, things like that. So I'm going to add one here. Personally, I recommend Rank Math at the moment. I've been using this one and so far it's my favorite at the moment. I think it just lets you do everything you need to do well and also takes care of the schema, which is quite good, so you don't really have to worry about it. So I'm just going to install Rank Math quickly. Now, when you're installing Rank Math, it's going to ask you about the sitemap. So that's another good thing about most SEO plugins. They will make the sitemap for you. Now, one thing about the sitemap I recommend is don't include images and don't include any of these extra elements. Just have posts and pages. Don't worry about categories and all the rest of this stuff. These are the two that you actually want to rank on Google. The rest will just be wasting the crawl budget and getting Google to crawl pages that are not really relevant. So you don't want to waste that because Google, quite frankly, doesn't like it when you have a lot of stuff that doesn't need to be crawled and indexed and you're wasting their resources. So just keep it to the most relevant. Hit save. And it's also going to ask you about schema as well, which we'll do in a second. These can all stay the same. Usually in the advanced options, we can skip the role manager. Okay, now it's going to ask you about schema. And so what's good about this is it's going to take care of it. And basically this is all you need to worry about because you're probably not going to be doing all the advanced schema tactics that there are out there at the moment. What you want to do is you want to select the schema type. For posts, just go article. For pages, I like to find service page and I put that so it knows that it's a service. These two can be empty, it doesn't really matter. The article type here is not blog post. This is blog post. You want to leave blog post for article. And you want to leave for pages service. And that's how I do it. And then basically it's going to take care of the rest for you. Now we can go into the page I just made, car accident attorneys. And what we're going to see now is SEO options. So you can see Rank Math is here. And if we open it, we can now edit the meta title in the description. So here, what I like to do is include the main keyword like that. And then what you also would be a good idea to do is go a variation of it. So for example, auto accident lawyer. LA maybe. Now, you can find that out by searching here, a variation of the keyword and seeing which one gets a lot of searches. So if we go auto accident, let's see if it's worth putting that in there. But at the beginning, it's good to just put a variation of the keyword. So auto accident lawyer in Los Angeles. So basically our variation is close enough to that. So I'm going to just leave it. And that's how you do it. I'd like to just go with that and put the two variations of the keyword in here. Now with the description, this doesn't actually impact your SEO. The meta title very much does, but the description doesn't. So you can put whatever you want in here. Usually I like to include the keyword and some kind of value proposition in CTA. So for example, injured in an auto accident, something along those lines, just to give people an incentive to actually click your result on Google. A lot of times Google changes the description anyway, and often even the meta title as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about it, but just make it something decent and then leave it there. We can close that and we can save the draft. And so now that part of the on-site for this page has been done. So we've got the meta title, the description, the URL. Now we can go into the editor and actually edit the content. For this one, I'm just going to use Elementor. If you're not using WordPress, this is not really relevant. Most page builders will look something similar to this. But what we want to do is go in here and actually edit this page. Now I'm just going to remove this back image because it's not that relevant. Now bear in mind, again, this is just from some other content I previously made, so don't pay too much attention about the template here. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this content and add it to this page. So I'm going to copy this headline and put it here. Now, what you want to make sure is that this headline is formatted as H1 HTML tag. You can see that here. That's very important for this main headline because this H1 tag basically tells Google what this page is about. And so it needs to be that specific tag. If you don't have an H1 or you put something else as the H1, then you're going to basically decrease the relevance of your page and it's less likely to rank as a result. Now, for the second one, I like to put that one as a H2 typically, and we'll put that below. So that's just the second priority headline. Basically, you want to order them in a hierarchical manner. So keep that in mind. Now, the next one is this first piece of content. Now, it doesn't have to be from here down formatted exactly this way, but I like to do it this way. So you can do it however your template of the website dictates, basically. From an SEO perspective, conversion rate perspective is a different discussion altogether and not the purpose of this video. But for a SEO perspective, you just want to have the content on there. Now, we can also have areas of law we help with. So we're going to copy this section, put that in here, and now we can copy these. Now, again, I'm not putting any thought into the design at the moment. We're doing this purely as a technical SEO exercise. So don't worry about the design. And now, so you can see how we have this as a H2 and then these subheadings are H3. So that's how you want this ordered. You want the main subheadline for a new section to be H2, and this should contain the keywords like we had back in Surfer up here. And then you want to have any subheadlines under those as H3 and have them in that proper order. Now we can add another piece of content here because we've got that extra section. So I'm just going to copy this part here and just paste it in. And that part needs a new heading. So I'm going to throw this guy in here and that will be an H2. And now we can go back to understanding this one. Now, again, I haven't fully gone through this content, but it's just for the purpose of this example. Copy this guy. Okay, so we got that content here. Now, you will notice that some of this is informational, which in itself is fine as long as you've got the commercial-based content, which is this services we provide and how we can help you sections. Some informational content on these pages is fine to get the keywords in there and the topic correctly covered, etc. But like I said earlier, you don't want the whole thing to just be informational with no actual service portion and the commercial portion of it. Now here, we'll just leave this for now because it's not relevant to what we're doing, but obviously you'd want to have the correct information about the attorney here. This won't really dictate anything to do with SEO, so it's not a worry for this exact discussion. Same thing with the testimonials and the map. And then the form as well. Now, one other thing I like to do is we have FAQs in this content, and I like to include the FAQs because they can be a good source of additional content we can have on these pages that we can't fit naturally anywhere else. And they also do help answer actual questions as well. So they're a good thing to include for SEO purposes. So what I like to do is do that. I like to have it in an accordion. So I'll just put the accordion styling in here. Okay. And then we can add the FAQs. So now with the FAQs, I like to put them as H3 so that they're a heading and so that you get the benefit of the keywords in the headings there as well. That's a little tip you can use. What I'm going to do is, now I'm not paying attention to the styling of this for now because the design is not really relevant to SEO. I'm just trying to get this done for the purpose of the video. So bear that in mind here. So now we have the FAQs here. You can add them however you want. I just like to have them in the accordion as long as the headlines are H3. That's the important part to get right. And then I'm just going to put that last call to action section here. Okay, put the text, which will be in this case white. And so now we can publish the page and we have a page now with all the optimized content ready to go. So this page is now essentially from an SEO content perspective been optimized. You can see here we have the meta title, which you can see in the browser. If we look here, we go accident attorney Los Angeles, car accident attorney Los Angeles, auto accident lawyer LA. That's the meta title. We did the description as well. We've got the URL, car accident attorney Los Angeles. You can see there. We have the H1, car accident attorney Los Angeles. And we have now the optimized content that ranks 74 in Surfer SEO at least on here on the page. And so now this page is basically ready to go from a on-site optimized perspective. The schema has been taken care of from the SEO plugin as well. Now, one thing you do want to do is you want to include internal links in these pages on every page as well. So if you have any sub pages from this, let's say you've got some, let's say this is a California page and then you're linking to internal cities, you can link to those cities from within this page, maybe around the map. You can go, we service the areas and link to them, for example. Or if you have supporting informational content, for example, maybe you made a blog about how much does the best accident injury lawyers charge in Los Angeles, and you have a whole blog about that, you could link some part of this FAQ to that blog and link from that blog back to this page. And then that will create an internal link structure to make that silo I mentioned earlier in the video. So that's something you definitely want to make sure that you have as well. Now, this should also be mobile friendly. So this template already is, as you can see here. You just want to double check that it is. This would need some gap on the edges, but you want to make sure that this actually looks presentable on mobile as well. So that's there, that's done like that. Now, in terms of page speed, which I mentioned before, you want to make sure that's done as well. So there's two tools I would recommend you use. And what you can do to Google is just go website page speed tester and pull them out. There's one from Google, Page Speed Insights, and the other one is this one from Pingdom. And what you can do is you can take the URL of the site or the individual page, whatever, copy it, you can paste it in here and let it analyze it. And select the server that's closest to you. So in this case, it would be San Francisco. And this will tell you how fast the website is loading. And so if it's longer than 3 or 4 seconds, you basically want to improve it and make it load faster. So that's something to note as well, because that will impact your SEO if it loads too slowly. And especially if people are bouncing before they get to the site, that's not going to be a good thing. So you'll run this test. It will tell you exactly how long it takes to load. What it'll also tell you is what's holding up the loading or what takes the longest to load, and what the score overall is as well. And Google will do one too. So you can see the performance on this one's okay. That's because the home page is basically a blank website, but it'll give you a score. And if it's not a good score, then you probably want to look at improving it from an SEO perspective. The last thing I mentioned was a sitemap. That's already taken care of basically by the tool. But what that looks like is if we go to the site and we go the URL and then we go /sitemap.xml, it will show us a sitemap of all the pages on the website. So if we hit page or post, you can see here all the pages that are on this website. And so you'll have this obviously be a lot bigger as you're starting to build out this website and build out more pages. But that's what this looks like. And we're going to submit that to Google later. I'll show you how to do that so that it knows what pages exist on your site and to actually crawl them. So that's something that you'll want to do as well. So now that we've done all the on-site optimizations, you've made all your main commercial pages and basically the core of the website is ready to go and release. You can get that live and now you can start acquiring backlinks as you start doing everything further from here. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So firstly, acquiring backlinks. Basically, I mentioned earlier when I pulled up the keyword, and we'll go back to SEMrush here, you can see the domain authority score of these websites. Basically, that is a calculation of how strong the backlinks that link to these websites actually are, indicating how, let's say, trustworthy these sites will be. Now, each tool has its own calculation of what they use for this domain authority score. It's also called DR, AR. There's a few other different acronyms for it, but basically they're all the same thing. It's just a calculation of how strong it is based on the backlinks they have going to the website. And so what you want to do is you will need to compete with this also by getting backlinks to go to the website. And there's a number of ways to do that, but this is also a very tricky topic because if you mess it up, you can actually get the site penalized. So you need to be careful. But basically the order of backlinks that you should be looking at is like this. Firstly, you want to get directories and citations. Now, these are basically listings on websites like Yelp and other of these business directories. In the law industry, you've got like Justia, Super Lawyers, etc., which those ones cost money to list on. And some of these will, but some of them are free. And you want to try and get as many of them as you can. The reason being is that it spreads your name, address, phone number, and website across the internet and the mentions of your brand. And that does help your SEO to basically establish the website as a real brand to Google. So when it sees all these other websites that actually list your service and link back to you, it's an indicator that you're a real business and that it should trust you a bit more. So I would start by making directories and citations. And that's also going to help you with the local search results to rank there as well, because it puts your address and where you are locally based. And so that helps to establish your local relevance as well. Then the next thing you want to do after that is a press release. Now there's various services you can use for this. Some cost as low as $200, some cost as much as about $1,000 depending on what publications they put you on. But basically they will just release a short article talking about your business and have your brand name and a link back to your site and typically your address, phone number, email, etc. Again, these are mainly to just establish your brand and get some links coming back to your website. These links in themselves probably won't be super authoritative and do much for your SEO, but what they do is make a natural looking backlink profile so that when you do get good specific links later, they don't look unnatural because you have a lot of these other ones. If you have a bunch of very specific links with a very specific keyword all going to one page and nothing else, that's obviously an indication of manipulation and Google knows this. don't forget it's seen billions of websites and all kinds of website manipulation going on, so it knows what that looks like. You're probably going to get some kind of penalty. And so this just makes it look a bit more natural and makes you look like a real business, basically, because this is what real businesses do. Now, from there, you can start doing things like guest posts and link insertions. These are basically the most common types of backlinks. Guest post meaning that there's an article written on someone else's website and it includes a link back to your website. And link insertion is a link going to your website inserted in a page that already exists. So whether that's a blog, someone else's page on their website, a service page, whatever, wherever you can get one, that's basically a link insertion. And so you want to try and get relevant, high quality websites that get good traffic linking back to you. That's the key here. Not all links are good links. In fact, most of them are not good. So you have to be very careful with where you're getting links from, because too many bad ones can definitely cause you problems. But you want to make sure if you can get websites where, in this case, it would be something related to law, are relatively high quality, have their own relatively high domain rating, and have good traffic and haven't been penalized by Google or something like that, you want to get as many of those links as you can, because that's going to help establish your website as trustworthy, and being linked by all these websites from this particular topic is going to help make you relevant to that topic as well. So that's another thing to consider. And another one you can use is sponsor links. So actually sponsoring certain local initiatives can help. Various like fundraisers and things like that who will often link back to you if you sponsor them. Sometimes that can be as low as a few $100s or maybe even less to do that, and you can get a link back to your site from some quite powerful websites. So that's another good strategy you can use as well. Now, the thing to remember with all of these is basically they cost money. So whether you want to manually reach out to websites you want to get a link on and offer them something, or whether you want to pay a service to go get the links for you, you can basically expect that you're going to have to pay somebody something along the line. Technically, be aware that it's against Google's guidelines to purchase a link in itself. However, that's kind of how you acquire them. So however you want to go about doing that is up to you, but I'm just making you aware of what usually occurs. So that's how it goes when it comes to backlinks. The next thing is ongoing content production. So once you've got your main commercial pages set up and you've established all of them, you've covered all the local pages, all the different services you want to offer, the subsections, etc., you want to start doing ongoing content production. Now, what this means is basically blog posts. You want to start posting about all the different kinds of informational content that relates back to the services that you offer. Now, what you want to do is you want to typically start with the silo you want to rank for. So let's say you offer auto accidents, you offer workers' comp, you offer victims of crime, and let's say you want to rank for car accidents. Well, you want to start making blogs about car accidents first. So just cover that topic first before you start branching into the other ones, because it's just basically going to slow you down if you start spreading out. So what you want to do is figure out which keywords you want to do this for, and the way to do that is to go back to SEMrush and search the main keyword here. Now, remove the local modifier, which would this case would be Los Angeles, because that's obviously going to just limit the amount of results you get. Here you see the questions, there is none. But if we put auto accident attorney, all of a sudden you're going to see a lot of questions here. You got 181 potential questions here you can cover. And so these give you a lot of good content ideas to write about. So for example, is it worth getting an attorney for a car accident? When should you hire one? Do you really need one? How to settle the car accident without an attorney? All of these different things. You'll find heaps of different content ideas here for this, along with your own knowledge, obviously, of what you should write about. And so these will give you a lot of content, and you can map that out for months in advance if you want to get to the point where you are trying to cover basically as much of this informational content as possible about this particular topic. And so what happens eventually is you start ranking for more of these. These pages are linking back to your main service page. Some of these blogs are so useful that they're actually getting people linking to them. And so you're acquiring backlinks as well, which is another positive of them. And overall, this all helps to lift your entire site up. And over time, you start building a lot of momentum and getting a lot of traffic. And some of these people that come through there will actually end up being potential clients as well, who actually contact you to use your service. So that's another thing to consider as well. So that's basically how that all works. I would recommend that you regularly and consistently schedule them out and post them regularly. So at least a few a month. You basically, if you're in a competitive niche like car accident attorneys, you want to be doing 10 to 20 probably a month, maybe even more if you can do it. At least 5, even if you're in a lower competition niche, I would recommend 5 a month at a minimum. So 1 a week, maybe a little bit more than that. And do that consistently for months and months and months. because I've found that when you post consistently, the site tends to keep going up. If you suddenly stop and leave it for a few months, you'll see that you'll find a flat line, and it tends to also start dropping after a while if you don't pick it back up. So you got to be consistent with this. It does help. Now, the other thing is you want to internally link from these blogs back to the main service page in each of them, and also between each other. And that's how you establish that silo I mentioned earlier, where linking between all of the blogs and they all link back to the main service page, and ideally that service page down to them too. That channels any backlinks you get to these pages. It pushes the power up to the main page and makes them all relevant for that topic and supports that main page. And as a result, the main page is going to rank for more of those keywords. And that's how that works. And the last thing is you want to use this content to actually attract backlinks. So if you make pages that are genuinely useful, you're more likely to actually get people linking to those pages, sharing them, etc., which is going to help them rank and then help the main page rank in your whole site as a whole, as well as build you more domain authority score because you're getting more backlinks. So the only real scalable way to get backlinks is from content, because you can only purchase so many, every month before you either run out of budget or you just can't really purchase. Basically, the budget is usually the problem, but this way you can literally get hundreds or thousands over time links from content without actually even having to pay anything. And so that's the benefit there. 2 tricks I want to give you with content production that I've found been very successful, having done this for a decade now with SEO. And these are the 2 things I found. One is you can look for info content your competitors did that attract lots of traffic or backlinks, and then do those same topics. Because odds are, if they're doing something that's attracting a lot of attention, if you do something similar and ideally make the info content better than whatever they have with some unique information or some other unique point, then you are likely to do pretty good as well. So that's something you can do. You take a look at what your competitor is doing. It will give you a lot of informational ideas as to what content you should post. Now, trick number 2 is to actually sprinkle in natural content that is not actually targeted at any specific keyword, but is relevant to the topic. So if you're doing car accident cases all the time, I'm sure you know a bunch of specific things that people tend to ask all the time, or problems that come up all the time, or whatever the case is. Even if there's no keyword volume for these, I would still recommend that you write the content about them, because what happens there is it makes it look more natural, like you're not just specifically SEOing your website. And it also indicates to Google that you're an actual expert on this topic, because now you've got content that nobody else does. And so who's Google likely to show if you have all this unique content that other people don't? Probably you. So that's going to help you there as well. So that's something I'd recommend you do, and sprinkle it in fairly regularly if you can. Now, if you already have a website, before you started this entire process, this one's a bit of a bonus. You want to do a technical SEO audit before you start anything. So a couple of things you can do with that. There's a tool called Screaming Frog, which you can crawl your entire website and pull out any problems that you have that might be coming up. It'll pull up everything and show you what's going on. And the second one is Google Search Console. And actually a bonus one I didn't include on the slide is you can actually throw it into SEMrush like I showed you with the ones that we pulled earlier, and it will actually tell you a lot about the website as well. But what I'll do is I'll show you these 2 as examples. So basically you've got Screaming Frog, which is a tool that is going to crawl the website and tell you about any errors. And what happens is it's free up to 500 URLs. So you don't even have to pay for this for the basic version, which will crawl your site up to 500 pages, which is more than enough for most people that probably haven't started SEO yet. And it will tell you most of what you need to know. So I'm going to pull a random website from Google search just to show you an example of this. So let's say we take this one. And what we'll do is we'll run it through Screaming Frog. You would put the URL in and you would hit start. And what it's going to do is it's going to crawl this for you. Now, we'll let this run for a minute. What you can do is you can also connect a few other tools to this with APIs like Google Analytics and Google Search Console to get some useful data like stats on each individual page. So you can see which ones are getting clicks, which are getting impressions, which are not, and then make decisions accordingly. You will require the Pro tool for that though, so I'm not going to cover that here, but it is possible to do that. This one will give you a slightly more basic version, but it's still pretty good because it's going to give you any potential issues you have with on-site SEO. So for example, like meta titles, headlines, things like that have any problems that you can fix. You can see here that it's already starting to pull up some issues from the ones that the one I just threw in here. And you can also see that there's a lot of these random files here that could potentially be de-indexed. So that's something to consider as well. Like you can see all the different categories and stuff here. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's an interesting thing to note. But what we can see here is it's starting to pull up H1 tags missing. Now, okay, that's just from the blog post, but you can see an example of what it's finding here. Apparently it's finding multiple H1 tags on these pages, which is not a great thing. So you can definitely fix that. A couple of issues with the canonicals and a few other things here. So you can see that it pulls up all the technical aspects of your site, images missing, alt text, etc., and gives you a nice list so that you can fix it. And then you can export this into an Excel or a CSV file and then go through and actually fix this. Now, you can also see if you click these pages, you can see the various things here. So you can play around with this and see what things you want to see. If we click, for example, one of these and see the internal links, we can see what internal links go to the pages, etc. Pages that it links out to. Now, that's not exactly a page, but if we go to, let's say, contact us, you can see here these links. So coming from which site, which page is linked to it, etc. So it gives you all of this very useful data that you can go through if you want to go and take a look and run your site through this. It will give you some insight if you're having any SEO problems, why you might be having them. Now, the other one is Google Search Console. For this one, you'll need to set your website up in Google Search Console. I have videos on that. I'll put a link below for those. And basically what you would do is you set them up, and then you can see data like this, which basically shows you the clicks, the impressions that you get for the site. You can track the progress over time, how it's going, how it's showing up on Google, and a lot of different things here. So like the pages that you have that show up, the sitemap here, which is, by the way, where you want to submit the sitemap. You'd want to go into here and paste the URL of your sitemap in there to actually let Google know where it is so it can crawl it. Lots of other technical things here. You can see the links that link to your website, etc. And so this you can do an audit with here to see if there's anything wrong. You can also see here if you've got a manual action or a security issue. You can see on this site we don't, but if you had a manual action penalty, it will tell you here as well. And so this can be very useful, and you should definitely set this up. It's a free tool from Google. If you're doing SEO, you should definitely set this up. Final part is, how do you track the results of all of this that you're doing to know that what you're doing is actually working? So you can use Google Search Console, which I just showed you, which will show you the impressions, the clicks, and lots of other things. That will show you the keywords and the traffic that's coming to those keywords in a list. It will show you which pages, which countries that comes from, etc. You should also set up Google Analytics, and you should set up some form of rank tracking, which you can do through SEMrush, or you can do through a rank tracking software. And basically what that will do is it will track where your website's ranking either on a daily or a weekly basis so that you can keep track of, are you going up, are you going down, what's happening. Now, I'll show you Google Analytics, which is another free tool from Google. And basically what this does is it shows you what's happening on your website. So you can see here, it tells you all of the traffic sources that come to your website, how many users, how many events and conversions, which you would need to set up for this as well. I'll put a link below on how to set those up. So you can track when people submit forms and do phone calls and things like that. But basically you can see it tracks which traffic source it comes from, how many conversions happen, and a few other things you can set up here as well. So you can keep track of, are you going up, are you going down, is things improving, etc. On SEO, you will typically see it come from organic search. That will be the one that's showing you the amount of people coming from SEO and you ranking on organic Google. You can see here you got active users 363 and 20 conversions that have come through that as well. And so this lets you see if whatever you're doing is working and what channel of traffic is actually converting and what kind of conversions which you can set up to. So that's how you track that as well. So that's basically it in terms of doing SEO. This is the overall strategy with how you would run an SEO campaign for your law firm on an ongoing basis. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about this, put them in the comments below and I will answer them. Otherwise, if you would like me to take care of this for you and get you results with Law Firm SEO, you can go to dominatemarketing.io. You can book a call with me where I will audit your current campaign, see if you have been doing SEO, or if you haven't, I'll come up with a strategy for you of what you need to do and what's going to work. And then from there, we can discuss making it happen. So if you want to do that, go to dominatemarketing.io, book a call with me there. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video. Catch you on the next one.